Welcome back. This is Pharma Careers, clear role breakdowns, practical skills, and step-by-step career roadmaps.
So, you're trying to land a job in the pharmaceutical industry. Ever wonder what makes those interviews so different? Well, today, we're going to crack that code. We're talking about how to absolutely nail your interviews for roles in quality assurance, pharmacovigilance, or regulatory affairs.
Here's the thing. Most people walk into these interviews with the completely wrong game plan. They totally misunderstand what the hiring manager is actually looking for. And it all comes down to this one core idea. The winning candidate isn't the one who sounds smartest. It's the one who sounds reliable. And that right there is the secret sauce. It's the golden rule for this entire thing. This isn't about wowing them with your brilliant, out-of-the-box ideas. Nope. It's about proving to them at every single turn that you are a safe, dependable, and process-driven pair of hands.
Okay, so let's get into it. The Pharma Interview Challenge. We need to break down exactly why these interviews are a whole different beast compared to, say, a job in tech or marketing.
This slide just lays it all out, plain and simple. In a normal interview, right, they're looking for talent. They want innovators, creative thinkers, disruptors. But in pharma, the game changes. The number one goal is to manage regulatory risk. Think about it. They're not just hiring an employee. They're trusting you to protect them from millions in fines, from product recalls, and most importantly, from anything that could harm a patient. So your whole strategy has to be built around one thing, proving you are the lowest risk person for the job.
All right, so how do you actually do that? Let's talk strategy. Starting with the very first question that sets the tone for everything, that classic opener, so, tell me about yourself. You know, instead of that long, wandering story about your life's journey, you need a super tight, four-step answer that screams, I'm the right fit. First, state your education. Simple. Second, name the exact role you're targeting. Be explicit. Third, give them some proof of your skills, even if it's from a college project. And finally, number 4, you tie it all together and explain why this specific role is the perfect next step for you.
And here's what that looks like in action. Just listen to how focused this is. I'm a B-Pharm graduate targeting QA associate roles. I've focused on GMP documentation and enjoy compliance-based work where accuracy and traceability matter. See that? Boom, boom, boom. It's short, it's targeted, and it basically tells the interviewer, I get this job and I'm ready to start.
All right, next up, defining key compliance terms. Now, this is a minefield. This is where so many candidates fall flat because they just, spit back a textbook definition. We're going to do it a much smarter way.
So, the interviewer leans in and asks that classic question, a real staple of any pharma interview. What is GMP? Okay, your answer cannot sound like you crammed from a textbook 5 minutes ago. It has to be about the outcome. Look at this definition. It's a system of controls. Why? To ensure quality. How? Through real-world things like SOPs, documentation, and data integrity. Answering like this shows you don't just know the words, you understand the purpose behind them. Here's another pair of terms you have to get right. A deviation is basically the, oops, it's a one-time departure from the plan. It's the event. But a CAPA, a corrective and preventative action, that's the big picture solution. That's the system you put in place to make sure that oops never ever happens again. Knowing that difference is absolutely critical.
Now, for all you pharmacovigilance folks out there, this one's for you. An adverse event, or AE, is literally any bad medical thing that happens to a patient. A headache, a cough, anything. But an adverse drug reaction, an ADR, well, that's when you have a suspicion that the drug caused the problem. That link, that suspicion of cause and effect, is the entire foundation of pharmacovigilance work.
And for our regulatory affairs people, let's talk about the CTD. Now, the key here, especially if you're new to the field, is don't pretend you've built one of these from scratch. The goal is just to show you get what it is. It's a standardized format, a universal blueprint with 5 modules that organizes all the information for regulators. A clear, simple understanding is 1,000 times better than faking experience. Okay, here we go. This is the part of the interview that really separates the top candidates from everyone else. Let's talk about mastering those tricky scenario questions. This is where you prove you can walk the walk.
And here it is, the ultimate test. I can almost guarantee you'll be asked some version of this question. You find an error in a batch record. What do you do? Seriously, your answer to this one question can make or break the entire interview. So you have to follow the sequence exactly. First, and I cannot stress this enough, you stop. You never ever scribble it out, use whiteout, or try to hide the error. Second, you follow good documentation practices. a single, clean line through the mistake with your initials and the date. Third, you escalate. You immediately tell your supervisor or QA, just like the procedure says. And finally, you help figure out the impact. This four-step answer shows you're reliable, you're transparent, and you are safe.
All right, let's bring it all home. Our final section is about pulling this all together into what we're calling the winning compliance mindset. This is how you answer that big final question. So, why should we hire you?
Look, forget about the generic stuff like I'm a hard worker or I'm a team player. The absolute best answer communicates two things, and only two things, that you are a low-risk candidate and that you're ready for a fast ramp-up because you already get the fundamentals.
Everything you say, every answer you give, should be filtered through these four pillars. They're your guide. Are you process first? Do you always put documentation first? Are you escalation ready, meaning you're not afraid to raise your hand and ask for help? And above all, is your focus always on patient safety? If you can signal this mindset, you are speaking their language.
And here's the best part. When you consistently apply this way of thinking throughout the interview, you can genuinely outperform other candidates, even people who have more years of experience but don't have this rock-solid compliance-first mindset.
So, at the end of the day, the question isn't, are you the smartest person for the job, or are you the most ambitious? The real question is this: are you ready to be the safest candidate? Because in the world of pharma, that's what gets you hired.
If this helped, like and subscribe. Watch the next video in Pharma Careers for the next role breakdown.